Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about something that is potentially a little bit heavy, so just a couple of content warnings up front. We are going to be talking about weight loss and body image and less the ideology of body neutrality, but the language of body neutrality. So if those are things that you're not comfortable having a conversation about, no worries, I will catch you next time. So I am a person who gets a lot of comments and messages where people will pretty in detail describe a lot of issues that they have with their bodies. They might not even necessarily pose them as, here is an issue I have with my body, but the way that they're describing it can have a big impact. I am also someone who was raised in kind of the cult of diet culture, as most of us were. I went to Weight Watchers as a child, and I also definitely had a lot of unaddressed body image problems growing up, and a lot of what contributed to that was hearing other people describe their bodies in ways that told me that my body was worse. Now, this is something that everyone is going to experience differently just because it is so personal how we relate to our bodies and how we relate to our friends and the other people around us. Something that I think a lot of us forget about and that I think is very important is that when we talk about our bodies, other people are listening, and when we speak badly about our bodies, we're not just talking about our bodies. And we have kind of this idea that we can say, oh, I hate X about my body while talking to someone else, and that won't affect them at all because it's like, well, I'm not talking about their body. The thing that you have to remember is that you are, in fact, talking about their body. I'm not really interested in telling you how you can or can't feel about your body. I'm not telling you you have to love your body 100% all of the time. That's not possible and ultimately not helpful. But I do want to talk about some tools we can use to, one, try and mend some relationship issues that we might have with our bodies, and two, some ways we can speak about our bodies that might be less harmful to other people who are listening. So there are three general things that I'm going to talk about that come up a lot, specifically around bra fitting, but these are things that have to do with kind of overall body image, our relationships with our bodies and all of that. But that's kind of the scope we're looking at, because if I sat down to have a conversation about body image in its entirety, we would be here for a long time. So the first thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it flat out, is you do not need to lose weight to have a bra that fits. You don't need to lose weight to find a bra that fits. You don't need to lose weight to deserve a bra that fits. And I have talked to so many people for whom this pretty simple concept is very, very complicated. I've talked to a lot of people who use uncomfortable clothes as a punishment for their body. So they'll say, I'm not going to buy a new pair of jeans or a new bra until I lose X amount of weight. I've talked to people who simply think that it's impossible to find a bra that fits them because of their weight. I've talked to people who have back and shoulder pain because of their bra, but they are convinced that it's because of their body, not because the bra doesn't fit them. These are all really harmful concepts, specifically around bras, that tie into a lot of harmful stuff that we do all of the time, whether or not we're thinking about bras. The main thing that I can say about this is if you are putting off getting a bra fitting because you think that it's pointless, you think that your problems are caused by your body and not by your bra, or you just want to put it off until you lose a certain amount of weight, you are just making your life worse. It is never going to be a positive contributor to your life to extend your discomfort in order to meet some arbitrary goal. One thing to keep in mind for this is, in general, if you're wearing bras all the time, you want to be buying new bras around once a year anyways. So if you have a long-term goal as far as changing your body goes, you're probably not going to cut down on that many bras that you need to buy, and you're just going to make that time span, that year or 2 years, much, much worse for yourself. This is especially important when it comes to back and shoulder pain. Now, I'm not a doctor. I cannot tell you why you have back or shoulder pain, but I've definitely had people come in after being recommended by a doctor or a chiropractor after having a lot of shoulder and back pain to get a bra fitting, and it's worked a lot of wonders for them. And I've talked to people who have complained to me about their back and shoulder pain that they say is coming from their bra, and when I suggest perhaps this has something to do with their bra not fitting, they go, no, it has nothing to do with that. This is just because I'm too X, Y, or Z. And the only thing that I can really say to that is, if you are having these problems and there is a possibility that finding a bra that fits could help them, I really, really want to encourage you to take that step. It can be very daunting, especially when we are struggling with issues with our bodies, to let someone measure us and let someone look at us in a bra, but there are resources. So I would encourage you, if you think it's not going to be harmful to you, to try and get a fitting at a specialty bra shop. That's also if you can find one in your area. But there are tools that will help you do this online and will at least help you get on the right track. You can definitely join the subreddit r/a-bra-that-fits or the Facebook group. It's the kind of thing where it's hard work, and I know that it's emotionally very hard for a lot of people to take their measurements, but if you can do it without it being really detrimental, I promise it'll be worth it, and it'll have really big impacts, not just emotional, but also physical moving forward. As far as the language around this goes, one of the very big things that will help you not only when talking about yourself, but when talking about other people, is abandoning this concept that weight loss is an achievement. When you say that weight loss is an achievement, the implication is that being smaller is better than being bigger, and this is a lie that is fed to us by diet culture and by a lot of very harmful markets that prey on our insecurities. When you congratulate someone, for example, on their weight loss, you don't know what kind of damage you can be doing. You don't know maybe what that person's relationship with their body is. You don't know if it was a healthy reason that they lost that weight. And you don't know what's going on in their life. Unprompted congratulations, or congratulations just because somebody mentions that they have lost weight, can actually reinforce this idea that losing weight is morally good and not losing weight is morally bad. And so if we can remove that, it'll not only help us detach ourselves from that bad idea that feeds into a lot of harmful dieting practices, but it'll also help us be more compassionate and more helpful when we're talking to other people. So if someone mentions to me that they recently gained or lost a lot of weight in the process of talking about bra fitting or just how clothes should fit in general, generally it's just a nod and an okay, so that would mean blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is what your new size would be and how that might fit differently. And that's it. And we can take ourselves out of this like weird gamification of our bodies that we have been sold to be a part of. If you are new to this conversation, if this is the first time that you're kind of hearing about leaving behind this language of congratulations for weight loss or any of that, I'm going to include some resources in the description that have to do with how we can undo a lot of the damage that diet culture has done to us. Taking a look at the podcast maintenance phase, they do a lot of really good work when it comes to talking about a lot of the absurdities that diet culture tries to sell to us and how we can recontextualize that. And it's really, really helpful when hearing these things to hear people talk about them in a this is how this messaging is sold to us way, not in a this is what is morally good and righteous sort of way. So again, I'm not saying you can't have body image issues. That would be impossible. We can't remove ourselves from the society in which we've been raised. Beginning to work on having more compassion for your own body and being more careful about how we describe our body in front of other people can be really helpful not only to yourself, but to the people around you. The next thing I want to talk about has to do with breast size. So there are practical things that breast size can affect. It can sometimes cause back or shoulder issues. It can make it really hard to find clothes that fit how we like, whether it's because we can't fill them out or because we're spilling out of them. And it can affect how we're treated when we wear those clothes. And these are things that I cannot really do anything about other than try to provide resources that maybe make it a little bit easier to figure out how we can make those things work. There are a lot of complaints on both sides of the spectrum. Realistically, if we're talking about boobs, there are complaints all over the spectrum. Anyone of any size and shape has probably at some point complained about their boobs. There are a couple of things that I want to address here, and these are gonna have a little more to do with language. And again, I really don't want it to sound like I'm telling you what you can or can't think about your own body, but I am trying to provide a little context on things that people often say when trying to make fun of their own bodies that will then be heard by other people and potentially make them become hypercritical of those things in their bodies as well. It's pretty common for people with small breast to say that their chest looks like that of a small boy or a young child. And for some people, this might be a neutral term. I know that a lot of people refer to, you know, the boyish figure of like the 1920s era. And if it is like a neutral term, then have at it, I guess. You're probably okay. When you use those terms to be disparaging to your own body, it feeds into the idea that bodies with breasts need to look a certain way in order to be good or desirable or whatever it is you're talking about at that moment. For a lot of people, this is kind of just like a throwaway comment, but keeping in mind there are a lot of people who either are still working on their relationship with their small boobs, or people who are trans or just have smaller boobs in general. A lot of people are going to find themselves more vulnerable to these kind of comments, and so when you kind of take a step back and try and use those terms less disparagingly about your own body, a lot of what you're doing is protecting other people who might be less in a place where they can kind of make fun of their body in a fun and jovial way. When it comes to bigger boobs, again, there are a lot of things here that I cannot help with other than try and provide resources. But one of the big things that I see is a lot of hopelessness. This is a tough one to address because as someone who wears a very common size, it's hard for me to be like, you should just keep your chin up and keep looking. And obviously that sucks and I don't want to do that at all. I do want to mention that from a very young age, we hear a lot about what sizes are and are not possible to find. I have had people come into my store and like openly laugh at a bra size while someone literally in the dressing room was currently being fitted at that bra size. I've had people say that it's impossible for them to find a bra that fits, so it's not worth going in and getting fitted, or no bras fit them properly, and so they've just like given up on bras. And as I always say, if you don't want to wear a bra, totally fine, but I want that to be a choice that you are making, not something that you end up being pushed into. These offhand comments can be a contributor that makes it so that people wait longer to get their first real bra fitting because they kind of accept the issues that they have as unfixable. And it just makes it a lot harder to motivate yourself to go into a dressing room. The last thing I want to mention, this one is a little more amorphous because it can really come from kind of any side. A lot of people think that their boobs are not normal or look weird in some way, which is pretty much just not true because there are so many different ways that boobs can look. And this is something that you'll get pretty used to if you start diving into a lot more bra fitting communities, because there's so much discussion about shape and placement and root, and all of that kind of feeds into, you know, what bra's gonna work well, and it also trains you to realize, okay, there are a lot of different ways that boobs look. This particular topic hits pretty close to home because I am someone who has always had a full-on bottom, soft, pendulous shape, and you know who else has that shape is a lot of people who have had kids, lost a lot of weight, and while some of those people have a lot of compassion for their new shape, a lot of them don't. And I get a lot of comments from people describing their breasts as saggy, used up, sad, or deflated, all while describing basically exactly my shape. I am very glad that I am very secure in that aspect. I think partly because I have seen so much of like the diversity of what bodies can look like, and so I'm not nearly as tied to a lot of the ideas about what they should or should not look like, but it still doesn't feel great. This is a great example of people describing their own body in negative terms, and those terms also having collateral damage. A lot of the time, I think we give ourselves permission to be a lot meaner about our own bodies than the bodies of those around us, at least out loud. And that has a lot of unintended consequences, both for our own self-esteem and also for those around us. So the recommendation that I'm going to have here is to actually describe your shape and just use terms that mean what you're trying to describe instead of using terms that talk about how you feel about what you're trying to describe. Often when people come to me talking about their sad, used up, deflated breasts, what they mean is that they are full on bottom, pendulous, and or they have soft tissue. Learning terms like these to describe your shape will make it a lot easier both for you to detach yourself from a lot of the negative implications that you're putting on your own body, but also make it a lot easier for you to communicate a lot of your fit issues without taking someone else down a peg unintentionally along the way. In general, I just want to say that trying to compare your breast to some kind of standard is a losing game because there really is no standard. And this is true for all bodies in all different ways, but I think because most of the time, most people don't see a ton of variety in breasts because they are either watching the media where things are very, done up and there's a very particular kind of body that is presented, or they are only perceiving how people's breasts look when they're in a bra in clothing, which is just different from how it looks on your body, and you're going to have a different reaction to that. That's all I have for today. Yeah, I mean, I hope this was helpful. I think it's a very complicated issue, and I'm absolutely not trying to say that these things will fix these problems or that it's anyone's fault for feeling this way about their body. I am more just trying to provide tools that will make it easier for us to productively address and start working on these things. That's all I got. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.